All right. Today we're going to talk about crafting that blueprint. So we talked about generating ideas, thinking about a story. Now it's time to think about laying out the details of that in some form of an outline. Um, so there are some benefits to having an outline. Some people have a very detailed and extensive outline, and some people are a little bit more freeform. And we'll talk about both of those options. But the benefits of an outline are that you have some clarity, you have a clear path to where your story starts and where it ends. Now, whenever I outline, I don't necessarily have the end worked out, but I kind of add to it as I go as the story progresses. So whenever I sit down to write my draft, I don't necessarily have the entire thing outlined, but I have a direction of where it's headed and where it's going. So at least I know that. It also helps to provide structure. So it helps you to organize your thoughts into the plots and the subplots and make your narrative more cohesive. It helps with the developmental editing stage later on if you can keep those things all on track from the very beginning. I do think it increases efficiency. It does save time during the writing process. It does reduce the need for extensive rewrites. So if you have your plot kind of already planned out and it makes sense, it's cohesive, you won't have to do as many rewrites during that stage. You won't have as many plot holes, hopefully that you've thought through all of those during your outlining process. It also helps with character development. So you're working on your character's arc whenever you are outlining, so that it's well defined and consistent throughout the story. So those are some of the benefits to outlining. And like I said, some people do a detailed outlining, and it's a very comprehensive roadmap, and makes the process very straightforward. Some people think that it's too restrictive and it stifles the creativity, making it too rigid. I do outline, but it is not set in stone. And therefore, if it needs to be fluid and it needs to change, it can absolutely change at any point in time. Some people can do, there's a couple different techniques, a chapter by chapter outline or a scene by scene outline. I like to do chapter by chapter, breaks down individual chapters into smaller stories. It's basically like writing little mini short stories, detailing events and character actions. Scene by scene goes a step further. I guess that could be in your individual chapter by chapter outlines, is that you're outlining your scenes within your chapters and detailing kind of a little bit more detail about what characters are involved in that chapter and what the settings are and what actions are involved in that. As far as flexible frameworks, we often call these individuals pantsers. It allows for more spontaneity and creative freedom during the writing process. The one thing that it can create is that you could end up with plot holes and inconsistencies if it's not properly managed. You kind of need a source document to keep track of items that you write down. So you're keeping a rough structure for the 3-act structure and doing mind mapping. So you might have notes on these things as you are building your flexible framework. So to create an effective outline, like we talked about, you have to have your idea, jot down the core of your story. What is it about? What themes is it going to explore? What genre? That's going to influence the structure of your outline. Your plot summary. So this is the overviewing, like the backbone of the story, if you will, and any subplots that are going to be going on. You create your character profiles for your main characters and all of your supporting characters, and then organize it into acts or chapters. So you obviously have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So your beginning is going to kind of set up the story, introduce the characters, establish the setting. Your middle is going to develop the plot, if I could talk, develop the plot and build tension, advancing your character arcs, and the end obviously is resolving your conflicts and tying up all your loose ends. Um, you can choose to do more detailed scenes. So if you have a scene that you believe is crucial to the book, the one that I just finished drafting, currently, it took me a long time to outline. It was the death of, I consider it not the main character, but a major character in the story. And it had to be very emotional for the main character. And so I wanted to make sure that I did a good job of detailing that scene and making it very vivid for the audience to read it. So that was very important to get the specific details down to a T. And so I took extra time and kind of stepped away from the drafting process to iron out the very minute details of that particular scene more than I have other scenes, just because I wanted it to be very impactful. So you might, carve out a detailed scene and spend more time on it. There are tools and resources that authors use to do the outlining. A popular one is Scrivener. I've not really tried it. I use Word primarily, but a lot of authors think that that software really helps them organize their ideas and structure an outline to come up with their manuscript. You could use Evernote. So if you are a pantser, maybe you want to keep a few notes on characters as you do things. You can use Trello. It's a kind of a project management. You can use that to represent different parts of your book and kind of piece them out. And you can move the pieces around as needed. But I would recommend having some kind of an outline, even if it is a very, very loose outline. And like I said, there might be areas that warrant more detail than others. But I think that having an outline is very effective, and I think it helps you be more productive. It's also going to help you with a writing schedule. And I think it's going to, it's a clear roadmap from beginning to end. So I think it's an important piece. And I know a lot of people are excited to get those first words down on the page, but taking a few minutes to say, time out, let's think about this, and kind of really develop the idea, I think is going to help develop a more solid story. Again, that's not the end all be all. It's not the only way to write a book, but I think it does help. So happy writing.